I answered the phone on a Friday afternoon, expecting maybe a quick chat about weekend plans. Instead, my Aunt Linda's voice came through, casual and light, like she was discussing the weather. "Oh, by the way, the party's just immediate family. Hope you understand." I stood there, frozen, phone pressed to my ear. I'd just covered $10,200 for my parents' backyard remodel. The party was supposed to be the big reveal. My dad texted me an hour later. "Don't be dramatic." So I didn't dramatize. I just canceled every contractor payment and froze the landscaping funds. The next day, I had 39 missed calls and my mom at my door yelling my name. I stood in my living room, listening to my mother scream my name through the front door. The sound echoed off the walls of my apartment, loud enough that I knew my neighbors could hear every word. But I didn't move. Not yet. I made myself a cup of coffee, measured out the grounds carefully, watched the water drip through the filter. Outside, Mom's voice reached a pitch that would have been funny if it wasn't so tragic. Let me back up. 2 months ago, my parents called me with what they described as their dream project. They wanted to remodel their backyard. They'd been retired for 3 years, living on a fixed income, and this was something they'd been wanting forever. A beautiful outdoor space where the family could gather, where we could have barbecues and celebrations and make memories. I'm their daughter. Their only daughter, actually. I have one brother, Brandon, who lives in Colorado with his wife, Emily, and their 5-year-old twins. I'm 32, single, living in Seattle, working as a financial analyst for a tech company. I make good money, not rich, but comfortable. And when my parents called with this dream, I didn't hesitate. "Of course I'll help," I'd said. "Tell me what you need." The project breakdown was specific. $4,500 for complete landscaping with new plants, a rock garden, and proper irrigation. $3,200 for a custom patio with stamped concrete. $2,500 for an outdoor kitchen setup with a built-in grill, countertop space, and a small sink. Total cost, $10,200. I transferred the deposits immediately, scheduled the contractors, coordinated timelines. The work was supposed to be finished 2 weeks before the big family party my parents had been planning. Everything was on track. The contractors were reliable, the materials were ordered, and my parents were over the moon with excitement. Mom called me almost every day with updates. The landscaper suggested adding decorative lighting. The patio contractor found this gorgeous stone pattern. The outdoor kitchen was going to have a wine fridge. Every conversation, she gushed about how perfect it would all be for the party. Then came the phone call from Aunt Linda. It started normal enough. She was excited about the party, talking about how beautiful the backyard was going to look, how Mom deserved this after years of dreaming about it. I was smiling, imagining the whole family gathered there, thinking about how good it would feel to see my parents happy in their new space. Then Linda said it. Casual, breezy, like it was nothing. "Oh, by the way, it's just immediate family this time. Hope you understand. Your parents want something intimate." I stopped walking. I was on my lunch break, standing on a sidewalk in downtown Seattle, and I just stopped moving. People flowed around me like water around a stone. "Wait," I said. "What do you mean immediate family?" "I'm their daughter. I am immediate family." Linda laughed. That uncomfortable laugh people do when they're trying to smooth over something awkward. "Well, you know," she said, "it's complicated. Your brother's flying in with his family. The twins. It's really about them, you know? The grandchildren." "I paid for the backyard," I said. My voice sounded weird to my own ears. Flat, distant. "That's very generous, honey," Linda replied. "But this is separate. Don't make it awkward, okay? It's just one party." I hung up. Stood there on that sidewalk for a full minute, phone in my hand, trying to process what I'd just heard. Then I texted my dad. "Did you know I'm not invited to the party?" His response came fast. "Don't be dramatic. It's just family." "I am family," I typed back. "You know what I mean? Brandon's family. The kids. Don't make this about you." The words hit me like a physical slap. Don't make this about you. I just paid $10,200 for their dream backyard, and I was making it about me by wanting to be included. I walked back to my office in a daze, sat at my desk, opened my email to distract myself, and that's when I saw it. An email chain I'd been copied on weeks ago. I'd skimmed it at the time, thought nothing of it, but now I read it carefully. It was correspondence between my mom and the general contractor. Mom was asking if they could rush certain elements of the project. She wanted to make sure everything was perfect to surprise the kids. Not me, the kids, Brandon's twins. I scrolled down further, found another email where Mom had written, "Wendy's covering costs, so we can finally do this for the real family gathering." Real family gathering. I read those 3 words over and over. Real family. As if I wasn't real family. As if my contribution made me what? A sponsor? A benefactor? But not actually part of the family being celebrated? My hands shook as I opened my banking app. I logged into my account, found the scheduled payments I'd set up for the contractors. 3 more payments were due over the next 2 weeks, totaling $7,800. The initial deposit of $2,400 had already been paid. I canceled every single scheduled payment. Then I drafted an email to the contractors. Professional, calm. Due to unforeseen circumstances, please halt all work immediately. Final payment pending family discussion. I called the landscaping company next. Spoke to the project manager. I need to freeze the remaining funds, I said. There's been a change in the family situation. He was confused, understandably. The work was nearly done, but I was the one paying, and I had the right to stop payment. He said he'd halt work until he heard from me again. I did all of this in under 20 minutes. No yelling, no crying, no drama, just clean, professional cancellations. Then I turned off my phone and went back to work. That night, I turned my phone back on to check messages. 39 missed calls. Text messages from my parents, Aunt Linda, Uncle Roger, Brandon, even cousins I barely talked to. My voicemail was full. I deleted every message without listening. The next morning, Saturday, I was making breakfast when my doorbell rang. Then rang again. Then someone started pounding on the door. Wendy. My mother's voice, loud enough to wake my entire floor of the building. Open this door right now. I took my time, scrambled my eggs, made toast, poured orange juice. The pounding continued. The yelling got louder. I saw movement outside my window and realized neighbors were starting to look out, wondering what the commotion was about. After 15 minutes, I walked to the door, coffee cup in hand, and opened it. My mother looked like she'd aged 10 years overnight. Her face was red, her eyes puffy, her hair uncombed. Behind her stood my father, arms crossed, jaw tight. They pushed past me into my apartment without waiting for an invitation. "What is wrong with you?" Mom's voice filled every corner of my small living room. I closed the door quietly, took a sip of my coffee. "Good morning to you too." "Don't you dare," she hissed. The contractors called. "They're stopping work. The party is in 2 weeks. 2 weeks. I sat down on my couch. "The party I'm not invited to?" "Oh, for God's sake," Mom threw her hands up. "This again? Linda told me you'd be difficult about this." "Difficult," I repeated. "I paid $10,200 for a party I can't attend, and I'm being difficult." "That money was a gift," Dad interjected, his voice hard. "You can't just take it back. That's not how gifts work." I looked at him. Really looked at him. "When did you become someone who takes money from your daughter and then excludes her from the family?" "We're not excluding you," Mom said, but her voice faltered. "It's just, this particular party, it's for grandparents. With the grandchildren. You wouldn't understand." "I wouldn't understand," I said slowly, "because I don't have children." The silence that followed was deafening. "That's not what I meant," Mom backtracked quickly. But Dad wasn't backtracking. He stepped forward, his face set. "Fix this. Right now. Those contractors are threatening to walk away from the project entirely. We have deposits down. Materials ordered. You're sabotaging your own mother's dream." "Your mother's dream," I said. "Or Aunt Linda's party plan." "What's that supposed to mean?" "It means I've seen the emails. The ones about the real family gathering." Mom's face went pale. "You went through my private emails?" Dad's voice rose. "No. I was copied on them because I'm the one paying for everything. The contractor kept me in the loop." Mom sat down heavily on my armchair. She couldn't seem to meet my eyes. "Linda has been planning this for weeks," she said quietly. "She invited all the family members who have grandchildren. It's a celebration of grandparents. That's the theme. You," she hesitated, You wouldn't fit the theme. The theme, I repeated. So I'm excluded because I don't have children. Say it clearly, Mom. Brandon's flying across the country with Emily and the twins, Dad said. 3,000 miles. With 2 5-year-old kids. They need to see their grandparents in a nice setting. He gestured vaguely at me. You're just here. Just here. 2 words that summarized exactly how my family saw me. Geographically convenient, financially useful, but not really important. Do you know how often I've helped you? I asked. How many times I've sent money when you needed it? Paid for your flights to see Brandon? Covered emergency car repairs? That wasn't being just here. That was being your daughter. And we appreciate it, Mom said, but her tone suggested she really didn't. The silence stretched between us. 3 people in a room, related by blood, separated by something much wider than physical distance. Then Dad tried a different approach. His voice softened slightly. Look, he said, we'll include you, okay? Happy now? Just release the funds to the contractors. Let them finish the work. Include me, I said. Like a charity case. Like you're doing me a favor. Don't be so sensitive, Mom snapped. Linda planned this party for weeks. She has a vision. She invited everyone with grandchildren. It's a grandparent celebration. You don't have children, so you wouldn't understand what that means to us. I pulled out my phone, scrolled to the email I'd saved. Read aloud. Wendy's covering costs, so we can finally do this for the real family gathering. I looked up at both of them. Real family. Want to explain that? Mom's face crumpled. You took that out of context. What's the context that makes that okay? Dad moved toward the door. We're not doing this. You're being irrational, emotional, typical. Typical, I repeated. Is that what you tell yourself? That I'm just emotional and irrational? Not that you stole my money and excluded me from my own family? We didn't steal anything, Dad's voice rose. You offered. You wanted to help. Now you're holding it over our heads like some kind of weapon. I wanted to help my family, I said quietly. But apparently, I'm not really family. I'm just here. Mom stood up, gathering her purse. We came here to resolve this like adults. Clearly, you're not capable of that. When you calm down and stop being selfish, call us. The contractors need an answer by Monday, or they're walking. Then let them walk. You'll regret this, Dad said. The only thing I regret is not seeing who you really are sooner. They left. The door slammed hard enough to rattle the picture frames on my wall. I sat in the silence of my apartment, hands shaking, coffee long since gone cold. My phone buzzed. A text from Brandon. What the hell is your problem? You're ruining everything for my kids. I stared at that message. My kids. Not our family. Not even Mom and Dad. His kids. Another text. From a cousin. Just heard what you did. Really classy, Wendy. Your parents are devastated. Then another. From Aunt Linda herself. So disappointed in you. Your mother is in tears. Over a party. Grow up. I turned my phone face down and stared at my ceiling. The family I'd loved, supported, and prioritized for 32 years had just shown me exactly where I stood, and it wasn't at the table. It was outside, checkbook in hand, waiting to be useful again. By Sunday afternoon, I'd been added back to the family group chat that I'd somehow been removed from during all this chaos. My phone exploded with messages. I watched them roll in, one after another, each one a small knife. Aunt Linda, so disappointed in you, Wendy. Your mother is in tears. In tears. Over your selfishness. Uncle Roger, this is childish behavior. It's just one party. You're acting like a spoiled brat. Cousin Jessica, wow. Never thought you'd be this petty. Your parents deserve better. Cousin Amanda, can't believe you'd hurt Grandma and Grandpa like this. They've done so much for you. Brandon sent a separate message directly to me. I'm flying 3,000 miles with 2 5-year-old twins. Do you know how hard it is to travel with small children? And you're really gonna ruin this because you're not the center of attention for once? Get over yourself. I didn't respond to any of them. What was there to say? They'd already decided I was the villain. My mother, in a move I should have anticipated, posted a vague status on Facebook. When your children break your heart, it read. Nothing more. But she didn't need to say more. Within an hour, family friends were commenting. What's wrong? Are you okay? Sending prayers? 3 different family friends messaged me privately. Is everything okay with your mom? She seems upset. I heard there was some family tension. The narrative was being written, and I was the antagonist. The ungrateful daughter, the dramatic one, the problem. I tried, once, to explain. Posted in the family group chat, I'm happy to discuss this when we can all have a calm conversation about boundaries and respect. I'd like to sit down with everyone involved and talk through what happened. Dad's response was immediate. There's nothing to discuss. You're being irrational. Release the funds or don't. Your choice. But don't pretend this is about anything other than you wanting attention. Brandon, we don't need a family meeting. We need you to stop acting like a child. Aunt Linda, boundaries and respect? Rich coming from someone who's manipulating her elderly parents with money. I closed the group chat, put my phone on silent, tried to work on a report for my job, but I couldn't focus. My email dinged. A message from the landscaping company. Miss Wendy, the email read. We received a call from your parents today. They attempted to pay the remaining balance with a credit card to continue the work. However, the card was declined. Could you clarify how you'd like us to proceed? The materials are on site, the crew is scheduled, but we can't continue without payment confirmation. I stared at that email. Their card was declined. A cold feeling settled in my stomach. I opened a new browser window, logged into my parents' bank account. Yes, I had access. They'd given it to me last year when Dad had surgery, and they needed help managing bills while he recovered. I'd never removed my access, and they'd never asked me to. What I saw made my blood run cold. Credit card balance, $34,217. Checking account, $812. Savings account, $0 and no cents. I scrolled through the recent transactions, cash advances, balance transfers, minimum payments that barely covered the interest. My parents weren't just broke, they were drowning in debt. I sat back in my chair, my mind racing. They'd asked me to pay for the backyard remodel because they had no money. None. They couldn't afford any of this. Not the party, not the backyard, probably not even their regular bills. The party wasn't about celebrating grandparents. It was about appearances, about showing Aunt Linda and Uncle Roger and the rest of the family that they were doing fine, that they were successful retirees with a beautiful home, and I was the silent financier making it all possible. I grabbed my keys, drove to my parents' house, knocked on the door, heard movement inside, then nothing. I knocked again. Dad opened the door just a crack. We have nothing to say to you. Your credit card was declined, I said. $34,000 in debt. Want to explain? Both my parents' faces went pale. Dad tried to close the door, but I pushed it open. You had no right to look at our finances, Mom said, her voice shaking. You gave me access to the account last year. You asked me to help you manage things when Dad was sick. I never removed my access, and you never asked me to. That's different, Dad said. This is private. You're broke, I said flatly. You can't afford any of this. The party, the backyard. You're $34,000 in debt, and you manipulated me into paying for a party you can't afford, for people who didn't even want me there. The silence was devastating. Linda and Roger have been helping us, Dad finally said, his voice barely above a whisper. Financially. They've been helping. In exchange for what? Mom looked away. She hesitated. They think you're too independent, too focused on your career. They wanted us to prioritize Brandon's family. I felt like I'd been punched. You sold me out, for mortgage help. It's not like that, Mom said weakly. Then what's it like? Tell me. Because from where I'm standing, you took money from people who don't think I'm good enough, and you let them convince you to exclude your own daughter. We needed help, Dad said. The house, the bills. We're drowning. Linda and Roger offered to help with the mortgage if we made this party special. If we showed them we were still capable of hosting family events. So I was the price, I said. My dignity, my place in this family. That was the cost of keeping your house. Neither of them could look at me. Before I could say anything else, car doors slammed outside. Aunt Linda's voice carried through the open door. I knew you'd come here. I knew you'd poison them against us. Linda stormed into the house like she owned it. Uncle Roger followed, looking uncomfortable but saying nothing. You're tearing this family apart, Linda said, pointing at me. Your parents needed help, and we gave it. What do? Work 60 hours a week and ignore your mother. I just paid $10,200, I said quietly. And you're holding it over their heads, Linda shot back. That's not family. That's control. That's manipulation. I looked at her, really looked at her, and I understood. This wasn't about the party. This was about power, about who controlled the family narrative, about who got to decide who belonged and who didn't. You paid my parents to exclude me, I said. We helped your parents when they were struggling, Linda corrected. And we suggested they focus on family members who actually participate in family life, not the ones who show up with a checkbook when it's convenient. I participate, I said. I've been participating for years. I'm just realizing now that my participation only matters when you need something. Linda's face flushed red. This is exactly the attitude we're talking about. You think you're better than everyone because you have a fancy job and no responsibilities. No responsibilities, I repeated. Is that what you tell yourself? That because I don't have children, I have no responsibilities? No value? Uncle Roger cleared his throat. Maybe we should all calm down. But nobody was calm. The room was electric with years of unspoken resentments and hidden agendas. This isn't about one party, I said, looking at all of them. This is about you deciding I'm not good enough, not family enough, because I don't fit your picture of what family should look like. Nobody responded. And in that silence, I understood everything. I left my parents' house in a fog, got in my car, drove aimlessly for 20 minutes before I realized I had nowhere to go. Home felt empty. My family wasn't my family anymore. Or maybe they never had been, and I was just finally seeing it clearly. My phone rang. Brandon. I almost didn't answer, but something made me pick up. Can we talk? He said. Just you and me. No parents, no Linda, just us. Fine. We met at a coffee shop near the airport. Neutral territory. Brandon looked tired, older than his 35 years. He ordered a black coffee, sat down across from me, and rubbed his face with both hands. I didn't know, he said, about the debt, about Linda's deal with Mom and Dad. I swear I didn't know the full story until today. What did you think was happening? He sighed. I thought you were being oversensitive about the party. Mom called me last week, said you were upset about not being included. She made it sound like you were overreacting. I didn't know about the money, about you paying for everything. I've been paying for things for years, I said. Their flights to visit you, the birthday gifts they send the twins, emergency car repairs, Christmas presents. Did you think they could afford all that on their retirement income? Brandon looked genuinely shocked. He stopped. I guess I never thought about it. Of course you didn't. Why would you? Everything just appeared. Gifts for your kids, visits from your parents, a beautiful backyard for the family party. None of it was your problem. That's not fair, Brandon said, but his voice lacked conviction. Isn't it? When's the last time you helped them financially? He shifted uncomfortably. They never asked. They never asked you. They asked me. Over and over. And I helped. Because that's what family does. We sat in silence for a moment. Then Brandon said, Okay, that's messed up. I can see that now. But can you just release the funds? For Mom's sake? We'll figure out the debt situation later. We'll all sit down and talk about it. But the party's in less than 2 weeks. The contractors are waiting. Can't you just let it go? I stared at my brother. Let it go. After everything, his solution was for me to just let it go. You want me to pay for a party I'm banned from, I said slowly. After finding out our parents are in massive debt, after discovering that Aunt Linda literally paid them to exclude me, and your advice is to let it go. It's not banned, it's just, he fumbled for words. Look, Linda has issues with you. She thinks you're judgmental, that you look down on her. I barely speak to Linda. We're not close enough for me to judge her. She says you act superior. The whole career woman thing. No kids, no husband, just your job. She thinks you judge people who made different choices. So I should fund a party celebrating how inferior I am. Brandon's jaw tightened. Why does everything have to be so complicated with you? It's just a party. Just release the money, show up if you want or don't, and we all move on. I realized something in that moment. My brother, my only sibling, didn't see me as a person with feelings. He saw me as an obstacle to his comfortable family gathering. My hurt, my exclusion, my financial exploitation, none of it mattered as much as his convenience. I'm not releasing the funds, I said. Brandon stood up. Then you're on your own. Don't expect me to defend you to anyone. He left. I sat there with my lukewarm coffee, surrounded by strangers living their normal Sunday lives, while mine fell apart. That evening, I couldn't sleep. I kept thinking about my grandmother, my dad's mother. She'd passed away 5 years ago, and I'd been close to her. She'd always made me feel valued, important, loved. She never cared that I didn't have kids or a husband. She just cared about me. I got up, went to my filing cabinet where I kept important documents, found the folder with her estate information. I'd gotten a copy of her will when she died, mostly for sentimental reasons. I'd never really read through it carefully. But now I did. Page 3. Distribution of assets. My grandmother had left $50,000 to be split evenly between me and Brandon, $25,000 each. I'd never received any money from her estate. I'd assumed she hadn't left much, that it had all gone to settling her debts or something. But here it was, in black and white. $25,000 for Wendy, $25,000 for Brandon. My hands shook as I found the executor information. My father, Dad, had been in charge of distributing the inheritance. I called the estate lawyer whose name was on the document, left a voicemail explaining who I was and asking for a call back first thing Monday morning. I couldn't wait. I called my dad's cell phone. It was 9:30 at night. "The inheritance from Grandma," I said when he answered. "Her will said I was supposed to get $25,000. I never received it." Long silence. Then, that money went to family expenses. "We were struggling. You had a good job. You stole from me." "We didn't steal." Dad's voice rose. "We made a decision as a family. You were doing fine. Brandon had student loans. He needed it more. Did Brandon get his $25,000? Silence. "Dad, did Brandon get his share?" "Yes," Dad finally said. "So you stole my inheritance and gave it to Brandon. And now you want me to pay for a party where I'm not welcome. Do I have that right?" "You're twisting everything," Dad said, but his voice wavered. "I'm seeing clearly for the first time in my life." I hung up, called Brandon immediately. "Did you get $25,000 from Grandma's estate 5 years ago?" I asked when he picked up. "Yeah," Brandon said slowly. "Dad gave it to me. We put it in the twins' college fund." "Why?" "I was supposed to get the same amount. I never received it." Silence. Then, "Oh, well, Dad probably figured you didn't need it as much. I have kids to support." "And you think that's okay? That Dad just decided my inheritance didn't matter because I don't have children?" "Don't make me the bad guy here," Brandon said defensively. "I didn't know you were supposed to get money too. Take it up with Dad. You got $25,000 that should have been split with me, and you don't think you bear any responsibility for that?" "I have kids, Wendy. Kids are expensive. You're single. You don't have those expenses. So my inheritance was forfeit because I don't have children." "That's not what I'm saying." "That's exactly what you're saying." I hung up, sat in my apartment, surrounded by the evidence of my family's systematic exclusion and exploitation of me. The inheritance was just another piece of the puzzle. Another way they decided I didn't matter as much. Another way they'd used me. My phone buzzed. A text from Mom. "Your aunt is willing to forgive you if you apologize and release the funds. This is your chance to make things right." I didn't respond. Instead, I sent an email to the estate lawyer, explaining the situation in detail, requesting a copy of all disbursement records. I had 5 years, but I didn't care. I wanted documentation. I wanted proof. Then I made an appointment with my own lawyer for Monday morning. This was no longer about a backyard or a party. This was about years of financial abuse, disguised as family obligation. And I was done being the victim. Monday morning, I met with a lawyer. Her name was Margaret, and she specialized in family financial disputes. I laid out everything: the backyard payments, the inheritance, the debt, the manipulation. Margaret listened, took notes, asked clarifying questions. When I finished, she sat back in her chair. "You have a strong case," she said, "both for the inheritance and for the conditional nature of the backyard funds. The issue is whether you want to pursue this legally. It will damage your family relationships, possibly permanently." "They're already damaged," I said. "I'm just finally seeing it." That Wednesday, my parents received a formal letter from Margaret's office. It outlined my demands clearly. Return of the $25,000 inheritance, plus 5 years of interest at the standard rate, totaling approximately $28,000. Repayment of the $10,200 in backyard funds, as the conditions under which they were given were not met. And a full accounting of all financial assistance I'd provided to them over the past 5 years, which I estimated at approximately $45,000 in flights, gifts, emergency payments, and other expenses. Total demanded $83,200. The letter was professional, clear, and devastating. My mother called me 3 hours after receiving it. She was hysterical. "You're suing us? Your own parents? You're actually suing us?" "I'm requesting what's legally mine." "We don't have that money," Mom sobbed. "You'll force us into bankruptcy. You'll destroy us." "You could sell the house," I said calmly. "Downsize. Reduce your expenses." "This is our home," she cried. "You'd make us homeless? Your own parents? You stole $25,000 from me. You manipulated me into paying for a party I wasn't invited to. You've been using me as an ATM for years. You have choices. You just don't like them." She hung up, still crying. An hour later, Aunt Linda called. I almost didn't answer, but I was curious what she'd say. "You're destroying this family," Linda said without preamble. "Your parents are good people in a difficult situation, and you're making it worse. Then help them. You have money. Pay for the backyard yourself." "That's not my responsibility." "But it's mine? You're their daughter. So that means I should fund my own exclusion? Pay for my own rejection?" "You're being dramatic." "Am I? Then, let me ask you directly. Will you pay the $83,000 my parents owe me?" Silence. "That's what I thought," I said, and ended the call. The family group chat, which I'd muted but not left, was apparently exploding. Screenshots started arriving from a cousin who disagreed with how I was being treated. Messages about how I was cruel, heartless, vindictive. Uncle Roger wrote that he was ashamed to be related to me. Cousins posted on social media about family betrayal without naming me specifically, but everyone knew. Brandon sent a long text. "My kids ask why Grandma is crying on the phone. They don't understand why their favorite aunt isn't coming to the party anymore. Thanks a lot for ruining their relationship with their grandparents. I was the villain, the ungrateful, selfish daughter who turned on her family over money." Thursday afternoon, I received an email from an address I didn't recognize. The subject line read, "We need to talk." I opened it carefully, half expecting spam or harassment. Instead, it was from Emily, Brandon's wife. "Wendy," the email read. "This is Emily. I'm using a separate email account because Brandon doesn't know I'm reaching out. We need to talk in person. Alone. Please don't tell Brandon. Meet me at Jefferson Park tomorrow at noon. I'll be by the playground. This is important." I stared at the email for a long time. What could Emily possibly want? We'd never been close. She was Brandon's wife, mother of the twins, part of the perfect family unit that apparently made them more valuable than me. But something in the urgency of her message made me agree. Friday at noon, I walked through Jefferson Park. Found Emily sitting on a bench, watching kids play on the swings. She looked thin, tired, stressed. When she saw me, she stood quickly. "Thank you for coming," she said. "I wasn't sure you would." "What's this about?" She looked around nervously, as if Brandon might appear from behind a tree. "Can we walk?" We walked along the path in silence for a moment. Then Emily said, "Brandon lied to you. About the inheritance money." "What do you mean?" "He told you he put it in the twins' college fund. That's not true." I stopped walking. "What?" Emily pulled out her phone, showed me bank statements. "I've been going through our finances because we've been struggling. I wanted to understand why. We should be comfortable. Brandon has a good job, I work part-time, but we're always broke, so I looked deeper." She scrolled through the documents. "The $25,000 from your grandmother. Brandon invested it in his friend's cryptocurrency startup. 3 years ago. It's all gone. We lost everything. I felt dizzy. He gambled my inheritance?" Emily showed me more statements. "This is our savings account. $47. This is the twins' college fund. Empty. Everything Brandon told your parents, told you. It's all lies." "Why are you telling me this?" "Because I'm leaving him," Emily said quietly. "After this trip to your parents' party, I'm filing for divorce. I can't do this anymore. The lies, the financial irresponsibility. I found out he's been asking your parents for money constantly. That's part of why they're in so much debt. What? Emily nodded. He told them he needed help with the twins' medical expenses, preschool costs, unexpected bills. They've been sending him money for 2 years, thousands of dollars. None of it went where he said it would. My mind reeled. Brandon had been draining our parents while I'd been keeping them afloat, and they'd excluded me from the family. There's more, Emily said. Linda knows. About the gambling, the lies, all of it. How? Brandon confessed to her last year when he needed money. She gave him $15,000. Made him promise never to tell anyone, especially your parents or you. I felt like the ground was tilting beneath me. Why? Because, Emily said, her voice bitter, you're the problem child who won't play along. Brandon is the perfect son with the perfect family. Linda needed to maintain that image. If everyone knew Brandon was failing financially, it would ruin her narrative. What narrative? That you're selfish and difficult. And Brandon is the responsible one. She's been telling your parents for years that you look down on them, that you think you're better because of your career. She convinced them that you're the problem. Emily showed me text messages, conversations between Linda and Brandon. Linda coaching him on what to say to your parents, how to maintain the image, how to keep you at a distance. This party, Emily said. Linda planned it specifically to exclude you, to showcase Brandon's family and humiliate you for not having kids. Your parents went along with it because Linda promised to pay off their credit cards if they made you feel unwelcome enough to distance yourself. I sat down heavily on a nearby bench. This was a setup. All of it. For years. I only found all this out this week, Emily continued. I confronted Brandon. He said I didn't understand family politics, that Linda was helping manage family dynamics, that you were too independent and needed to be taught your place. Emily's voice broke. I'm so sorry, Wendy. I should have said something sooner, but I didn't know. I swear I didn't know. Why are you telling me now? Because it's wrong. All of it. And because I need you to know that if you pursue legal action, I'll testify. About the inheritance money. About Brandon's gambling. About Linda's manipulation. All of it. She met my eyes. I'm done protecting people who hurt others. My kids deserve better than this. And so do you. We sat together in that park, two women who'd been used by the same family in different ways. And I felt something shift inside me. This wasn't just about money anymore. This was about systematic, intentional cruelty. And I was going to expose all of it. 48 hours later, I received a call from a law firm I didn't recognize. The attorney identified himself as representing my parents, Aunt Linda, Uncle Roger, and Brandon. They wanted to discuss settlement. The meeting was scheduled for Tuesday afternoon at a conference room downtown. I arrived with Margaret, my lawyer. We walked into a room where my entire family sat on one side of a long table, their attorney at the head. The tension was suffocating. Their lawyer, a man named Mr. Patterson, began with pleasantries that nobody believed. We're here to resolve this family matter amicably. I said nothing, just waited. Miss Wendy, Mr. Patterson continued. My clients acknowledge there have been miscommunications. Theft, I interrupted. The word is theft. Aunt Linda leaned forward, eyes blazing. How dare you? Margaret put a hand on my arm. Let's keep this professional. Mr. Patterson cleared his throat. My clients are prepared to discuss your concerns. However, your demands are excessive and, frankly, unrealistic. Margaret slid a folder across the table. Financial records, receipts, bank transfers, email correspondence, everything. My clients have documented every penny Miss Wendy provided to her parents over the past 5 years. Every flight, every emergency payment, every gift. We have the estate documents showing the $25,000 inheritance that was never distributed. We have evidence of Mr. Brandon receiving his share while Miss Wendy received nothing. Mr. Patterson flipped through the folder, his expression shifting from confident to concerned. The total amount owed, Margaret continued, is $83,200. That's the inheritance with interest, the backyard funds, and a conservative estimate of financial assistance provided under false pretenses. My mother made us sound like a wounded animal. We'll never have that kind of money. Then we'll see you in court, Margaret said simply. Brandon slammed his hand on the table. This is extortion. You're insane, Wendy. You're actually going to destroy your own family over money? Over respect, I said quietly. Over being treated like a person instead of an ATM machine. Linda's face was red. You ungrateful little girl. After everything we've done for this family. What exactly have you done, Linda? I asked. Besides, manipulate everyone into excluding me? Besides paying my parents to make me feel unwelcome? Besides covering up Brandon's gambling problem while painting me as the villain? The room went silent. Brandon's face drained of color. That's right, I said. I know about the cryptocurrency, about the lost inheritance money, about all of it. Uncle Roger, who'd been silent this whole time, suddenly spoke. Linda, tell them. Linda's head snapped toward him. Shut up, Roger. Tell them, he repeated, his voice hard. Or I will. There's nothing to tell, Linda hissed. Roger turned to look at me. Your Aunt Linda has a trust fund. From her mother. $300,000. The room erupted. Everyone started talking at once. I just sat there, absorbing this information. What? My mother gasped. Roger continued, his voice steady. She's been crying poor for years, saying we need to be careful with money. But she has $300,000 sitting in an account, untouched. Linda's face went from red to purple. That money is for our children. It's not, she struggled for words, it's not for this. For what? Roger asked. For helping your sister when she's drowning in debt? For doing the right thing? That money is mine, Linda said. I don't have to give it to anyone. Roger looked at her like he was seeing her for the first time. You've been manipulating your sister for years, keeping her desperate, offering just enough help to maintain control, making her feel worthless unless she had you to save her. That's not true, Mom whispered, but her voice had no conviction. Isn't it? Roger asked. Linda told you that Wendy thought she was better than you, that she judged you. Did Wendy ever actually say those things? Or did Linda tell you she did? Mom looked at me, then at Linda, then back at me. She faltered. Linda said, she explained that. Mom trailed off. I've watched my wife destroy the relationship between you and your daughter, Roger said. She's positioned herself as the matriarch of this family by making everyone else feel inadequate. She kept you in debt so you'd need her. She encouraged Brandon to fail so he'd need her. And she isolated Wendy because Wendy was the only one who didn't need her. You're a traitor, Linda spat at Roger. I'm done being complicit, Roger replied. He turned to me. Sue her, Wendy. Not your parents. Sue Linda. She can afford it. The room exploded into chaos. Linda screaming at Roger. Mom crying. Dad sitting in stunned silence. Brandon trying to defend Linda while Emily looked at him with disgust. Mr. Patterson tried to restore order. Let's all calm down. But there was no calming this. Years of manipulation, lies, and control were unraveling in real time. Linda, Margaret said calmly, cutting through the noise. You have 72 hours to agree to pay the full $83,200. If you refuse, we file suit against all parties, including fraud charges against Mr. Wendy's father for misappropriation of estate funds. Dad went pale. Criminal charge? Executor theft is a crime, Margaret confirmed. We'd prefer not to go that route, but we will if necessary. Linda's hands shook with rage. I'll pay nothing. You can't force me. Roger stood up. Linda, pay it, or I'm divorcing you and testifying against you in court. The room froze. Roger looked around at everyone. I'm serious. This ends today. Pay what you owe. Admit what you've done. Or I walk away, and I tell everything I know. You wouldn't dare, Linda whispered. Watch me, Roger said. The silence that followed was deafening. Linda looked around the room, seeking support, finding none. Even her own attorney looked uncomfortable. Finally, she spoke. Fine, I'll pay, but this family is dead to me. No, Roger said quietly. You killed it years ago. We're just finally admitting it. 2 days later, a check arrived. $83,200. From Linda's account. No note, no apology, just the money. I deposited it into my bank account and sat in my apartment, feeling empty. I'd won. But what had I actually won? My phone rang. My mother. I almost didn't answer, but something made me pick up. Can we meet? She asked. Just coffee. Your dad and me. Her voice broke. We'd like to talk. I agreed. Met them at a neutral coffee shop downtown. They looked older, worn down, broken. We don't expect you to forgive us, Mom said immediately. We just want you to know that we see it now. How badly we failed you. Linda made it seem so reasonable, Dad added. She'd say things like Wendy's so independent, she doesn't need family like Brandon does. Or, Wendy's too busy with her career to care about family gatherings. And we believed her. Because it was easier than facing our own failures. We let her drive a wedge between us and our daughter, Mom continued. We chose appearances over you, financial security over you, and there's no excuse for that. I sipped my coffee, tried to process whether I believed them, whether it mattered. The inheritance, Dad said. I told myself you didn't need it, that Brandon needed it more because he had kids. But that was just me justifying theft. I stole from you, and I'm sorry. The backyard, Mom added. We knew you weren't invited to the party. Linda made the guest list. She said it was grandparents with grandchildren only, and we went along with it because we wanted the party. We wanted to look successful in front of the family. We let you pay for your own exclusion. Tears ran down her face. I don't know how we became these people. People who would hurt their own daughter for money, for status, for Linda's approval. We're in therapy, Dad said. Together, trying to understand how we got here, how we let this happen. That's good, I said. My voice sounded distant, even to me. The money Linda paid, Mom said. We want you to know we're using our portion to pay down the credit card debt. We're selling the house. Downsizing to something we can actually afford. No more living beyond our means. No more taking money from you or anyone. We're cutting Linda off completely, Dad added. Roger filed for divorce. Did you hear? I hadn't, but I wasn't surprised. He's testifying about everything she did, Dad continued. The manipulation, the control, it's going to be ugly. We sat in silence for a while. Then Mom said, I don't expect you to want a relationship with us, but I want you to know that I see you now. I see what we did, and I'm ashamed. I looked at my parents, these people who'd raised me, who I'd loved, who'd betrayed me so completely. They looked genuinely remorseful, but remorse didn't erase the past. I don't know if I can forgive this, I said honestly. I don't know if we can fix this. We understand, Mom said. But if you ever want to try, we're here. We're not the people we were. We're trying to be better. They left. I sat in that coffee shop, surrounded by strangers, and felt the first crack in the armor I'd built around myself. Brandon called later that week. Emily filed for divorce. I'm losing custody of the twins. She's taking them back east to live near her parents. I'm sorry, I said, and I meant it. The twins didn't deserve to have their family torn apart. I gambled away the inheritance, Brandon said. I lied to everyone. I let Linda manipulate me because it was easier than facing my own failures. You were right to sue, about all of it. What are you going to do? I'm in therapy too, individual therapy. Working through why I made such terrible choices, why I threw you under the bus to protect myself. It doesn't fix anything, I said. I know, but I'm trying to be better. For my kids, if nothing else. We talked for an hour. It wasn't reconciliation, but it was honest. Maybe that was a start. 6 months passed. I used the money to create an emergency fund for myself, set up boundaries with my family, made it clear that any future financial assistance would be documented, with clear agreements about expectations and repayment. I wasn't the family ATM anymore. I was a person with value beyond my bank account. My parents invited me to dinner. Small, just the 3 of us. They'd moved into a modest apartment, paid off most of their debt, were living within their means. The backyard project had been completed with a different contractor, scaled way down, paid for entirely by them. I went cautiously. The dinner was awkward at first, but then Mom said, "Tell me about your work, not what you can do for us, just you, your life." And for the first time in years, they listened, really listened, not as potential sources of money, just as my parents. It wasn't healed, not even close, but it was honest. Aunt Linda and Uncle Roger's divorce was finalized. Roger reached out to apologize for not speaking up sooner. We met for coffee. He told me everything he'd witnessed over the years. How Linda had systematically isolated anyone who threatened her control. I should have said something, he told me. Years ago. I'm sorry. I accepted his apology, not because it fixed anything, but because holding on to anger was exhausting. I learned something through all of this. Generosity without boundaries isn't love. It's self-destruction. You can't buy belonging. And real family, actual family, doesn't exclude you and then ask for money. Sometimes the kindest thing you can do for yourself is say no, is walk away from people who treat you like an ATM instead of a person, is demand the respect you deserve. I drove past Linda's old house one evening. The for sale sign was still up. I didn't feel victorious. I didn't feel vindicated. I felt free. I texted my therapist. I think I'm going to be okay. And for the first time in years, I believed it. I paid $10,200 to learn what I was worth to my family. It turned out I was worth much more than that. I just had to stop accepting their valuation and set my own. I had to learn that being alone with dignity beats being included with shame. That family isn't about blood or obligation. It's about respect, honesty, and genuine love. I'm rebuilding, on my terms, with boundaries, with self-respect, and with the understanding that I deserve better than I accepted for so many years. The backyard my parents finally completed is nice, modest, realistic. They hosted a small gathering there last month. They invited me, just me. No crowd, no show, no performance, just family. I went. We sat in that backyard I'd helped fund, and my mother said, "This is beautiful. But what makes it meaningful is that you're here." It's not perfect. We're not fixed. But we're trying. And that's something. So, here's my question for you. Have you ever been in a situation where you realized your family valued your wallet more than your presence? Where you had to set boundaries that felt brutal but necessary? How did you handle it? I'd love to hear your stories in the comments below. If this story resonated with you, if you've experienced something similar or know someone who has, please hit that like button. It helps others who might be struggling with family financial manipulation find this story and know they're not alone. And if you're not already subscribed to this channel, I'd be grateful if you'd subscribe. I share real stories about family dynamics, boundaries, and finding your worth when others try to diminish it. Share this with someone who needs to hear that it's okay to say no, that it's okay to demand respect, that family love shouldn't come with a price tag. Thank you for listening to my story. Thank you for being here. I hope that wherever you are in your own family journey, you find the strength to value yourself as much as you value others. You deserve people who see your worth beyond what you can provide. Take care of yourselves, set those boundaries, and remember that you're worth more than you've been told.